here I go. Forgot to click that button. Hopefully I have clicked the go live button. It seems to be live as of even. Okay. We will stop fretting about things. Otherwise, I will pass the stress test that your dog failed. So, here we go. Welcome to Last Man Standing. I'm Dan Hollifield, and tonight we have Bill and John with us, and Stephanie she'll be with us a bit later. Pull the mic up off my beard.
Yeah, you get weird feedback.
Hey. So nobody wants to listen to me, even though I talk a lot.
Don't want to hear your beard.
Well, I mean, my beard might have something interesting to say.
I'm listening.
Barbara,
the most interesting beard in the world.
Oh, that would be fun, wouldn't it?
No offense, Dan, but if you knew what you were doing with all this, you could actually have a show with just you from here down doing the most interesting beard in the world, and just have all the same, those type of comments about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I want to save those for the green room. Believe me.
The most interesting beard in the world made Chuck Norris shave.
I don't think I could top that one, John. I'm sorry. Now I've got to be looking over my shoulder for Chuck Norris with a pissed off expression on his face.
Well, if Chuck Norris drops his walker, run. Okay. As long as he's on his walker, you can probably whoop his ass.
Is it a Texas walker?
Yeah. I'd probably be better
Texas Ranger walker. Yeah. Yes.
Taking off and nuking the site from orbit. That's the only way to be sure.
Mall walker, Texas Ranger. Okay. Chuck Norris is going to show up at my house and kick my ass for that. I just want you to know what kind of sacrifices I am willing to make your show just a little bit more enjoyable.
Oh, yes. Well, we always sacrifice so much for comedy. Well.
All these Chuck Norris.
What can we talk about that we didn't leave unfinished on stupid o'clock?
One of my personal pet peeves is I have oily skin. I've had oily skin my entire life. And I don't. Y'all are going to notice this from now on out, now that I pointed out. But I always get these little glares right here. And it drives
me sunglasses a lot.
I don't know. Did that help?
Well, I tell you, if you go with the blue filter over your lights, like I've done, it does actually change the lighting in the room quite a bit, so that you look a bit more natural. Because without the blue filter, I'm either entirely washed out or I'm entirely red, depending on which way I aim the light. So,
yeah, my homemade filter that I have is kind of a purple violet color.
Yeah,
it does the trick.
I just went and got a blue plastic cereal bowl from Kroger and put it over the light bulb.
Just so
I got a violet plastic colored or plastic lid and just taped it over my lamp here at the computer desk. It has far too many toys on it.
I'm running a green screen. And just so you know, if you ever want to buy something to use as a green screen, go to Walmart, get anything that's Kelly green.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And just remember, what's his name? Kelly, Ned Kelly from Australia that invented the bulletproof suit that didn't exactly work as well as he thought it would. But anyway, Kelly green. Okay. And you have to have some good lighting to make StreamYard with the background work, which is why I seem to have a hole in my head right here, just from the green screen effect. But the problem is you have to have a lot of light. So I went down into their garage and I pulled out a bunch of old lights that we had just laying around the garage, and when we were growing orchids and stuff like this. So the one that I've got over there is a grow lamp, and the one over here is some sort of LED lamp, and then I've got my LED slash, what are those curly Q fluorescent light bulbs
Yep.
called? I got about half of those are curly Q fluorescent, and the other half is LEDs. And then that's a grow lamp, and that's an LED. So I've got this weird red light, which is why I look like. And then I'm wearing a red shirt. So,
Well, no, the red shirt doesn't do it as much as the light bulbs. I'm using one LED light bulb right now, and it's got the blue plastic cereal bowl over top of it to change the color, because with the green screen and the color of the LED light bulb, the blue is necessary to get rid of all the red and still be decent enough to light up the green screen, which I am also using. Let me see here. Well,
Hey,
bugger.
I
Oh,
turned my
okay.
lamp slightly, so I'm not getting quite as much light on my face as I was.
Well, let me do this here, and you can see the green screen behind me, and part of my front yard, and my future well house if I ever get the money to buy that much plywood to build the darn thing. And basically, my skin tone is fairly natural. I think I'm a little bit paler than normal in this, but no big deal. And then it's just, I used to use extra lights to light up the green screen, and it kept, I was all white, just it was all bleached out, and then I'd stopped using all but the one light. Basically, it's pointing up at the ceiling and it's flashing off, and it's bright enough to do it. So everything seems to be fine. Oh, and
Hi,
there,
Christian.
there's Christian. Yes.
I did notice one problem with your TARDIS is that you can see the greenery inside the TARDIS.
Yes. Yeah, that's kudzu. You can't get rid of it. I
Yeah,
mean,
okay, that
a
explains.
single leaf got indoors and took over the entire thing. No, that's because I'm lazy and I did not fix
We had this
the
guy.
photograph.
We had this guy used to show up at all the science fiction conventions. I won't mention his name, but he was a atypical Yankee. Okay.
Mm.
And so every year when he was the guest host at the science fiction convention, they would buy him a Southern gift to take back up to Yankee Land with him. Like they had him a can of roadkill possum one year.
I have seen that.
And I suggested one year that we get a nice like flower arrangement. That's all kudzu. Just take it back up to New York with you and plant it in your garden.
I don't know how well that does up north, though. And then it got to be a certain temperature for it to thrive.
It's from
Oh.
Japan.
Oh,
I'd be willing to lend some kudzu for that experiment.
Yep. Make it an assortment. Make it kudzu and wisteria.
Pokeweed and
No. And
annual sow thistle and
Creeping
no,
Charlie, Creeping Jenny.
poison sumac and
no, the trumpet vine. So you get 3 invasive species in one, and eventually his property tax will be real low because nobody will know there's a house in there.
and sprinkle a liberal amount of dandelion seeds.
Yeah, there's this big thing about people not wanting to mow their lawns yet for the first time
Oh yeah,
this year because
no
said
mown
that
May.
early on, it's the only source of nourishment that the bees and that will get until other things start blooming and
Uh-huh.
that and it's crazy because you can mow your lawn one day
And have
and
dandelions the
those
next day.
dandelions will be back in less than 12 hours.
Yep, that's the main reason that my wife wants me to hop
We
on the
actually
zero turn and remow the front yard that doesn't need mowing except for the
we actually plant
dandelions.
plants in our yard just for bees.
Hmm.
Catnip is a good one.
Hmm.
Some people call it butterfly bush, strangely enough, because of the little flowers and the bees and butterflies and hummingbirds love it.
It's also good against the
Yeah,
mosquito.
it's two different things though.
No,
Yep.
they're the same thing.
Not the
But
butterfly bushes we saw up here.
Okay. And then the other one I like to do is basil,
hmm
or as I keep
Or
teasing the neighbor kids. It's my pizza bush.
there
Um,
you go.
I'm
Um,
or
growing
as
pizza
the English would call it, basil.
basil, and
Basil.
I love basil. I mean, your whole yard smells awesome.
mhm.
Bees love the bees and hummingbirds love the little flowers that are on it, and then the other thing we have that the bees love, we have Russian rosemary. It's not like the standard European rosemary that you grow for herbs and stuff like that. It's much smaller leaf and has these little purple flowers. And it's a gorgeous ground cover. I wish I'd known this years ago because my mom used to buy ground cover for her flower beds. That if you went to the Georgia Wildlife Management website, everything she bought is like an invasive species they're trying to get rid of.
Yes,
Um,
we have wild blackberries, irises, not dandelions, yellow jonquils. Oh, what was the one from Mr. Rogers' neighborhood?
um, Triffids.
Nope. Daniel Tiger. Tiger lilies.
Oh,
Things like that. And the forsythia and snowball bushes out front on the verge of the highway, and just plenty of stuff that flowers. We don't need the dandelions, so I go out and mow anyway.
we have this thing. I'm sure you've got it too, Dan. Called annual sow thistle. Annual, like every year, sow, like a female pig, and
Hmm.
thistle, which is the type of plant it is.
The big purple thing with the spikes.
No, it's not purple. It's like mutant dandelion.
That's salvia.
If you leave it alone and let it grow, it gets to be about 6 foot tall. Looks like a corn stalk. It's got spiky leaves with thorns on it, and the
Hmm.
flowers, when they pop out, they're yellow, but then they turn into that same type of seed dandelions have.
Mm.
And if you ever let it seed and the seeds get away from it, you will have an entire yard full of this crap.
Hmm.
Birds love it. So I've been trying to get rid of this stuff in my yard religiously for the last 4 years. And it's worse than dandelions. You can't get rid of this crap.
Oh, I forgot about the Liriopia. We've got the variegated and the standard green. A lot of folks call it monkey grass. Um, just all kind of stuff. And we got flowers all over the place that we don't mow. And then the yard, which I'm trying to get the centipede and zoysia to take over from the what's left of the fescue and God only knows what the rest of that crap is. It's not really yard grass, but it does a good imitation. Um, trying to get, I've been trying to get orchard grass to grow back in the edge of the woods, but there's too much acidity in the soil from the pine straw and the oak leaves. So it doesn't do very well. It does really well 1 year, but it doesn't want to come back because the soil is just too acid. So I'm thinking, well, if I'm not going to get a dump truck full of lime to spread back there and kind of balance out the pH of the soil, then I need to go ahead and just let whatever will grow back there grow, except for the trumpet vine and the wisteria and the kudzu.
Just get you some ground covers or something to put back there.
I don't have that damn much money, Bill. I really don't. I mean, it's got to be able to.
Well,
I know
you could
exactly
be
where land it is.
sparse in buying it, but they'll spread out after a while.
Nothing seems to be spreading out here. Let me tell you. Like I said, the pine straw, the oak leaves, the sweet gum, which I'd love to be able to afford to have somebody come in and get rid of every sweet gum in my entire property. But that ain't happening. Now we've got the next door neighbor's pine trees up right on the property line. They're huge.
Flamethrower.
Hmm? No,
Flamethrower.
no, I've got they're because of the lack of rain here recently. They're some of them are going dead, and I need to get my neighbor to come with his chainsaw and cut his trees down before they fall on my house.
Flamethrower, and then the fire department can get rid of them for you.
We don't have a fire department.
And even better, you can get like roast marshmallows.
We're
They're close to any power lines. You can have the power company cut them down.
Hey, I like
they
that.
just come and give everything a haircut. They don't cut the trees down. They just
Oh,
cut the
ours do.
sides that are close to the
That
power lines.
they up here, they love to hear somebody say, "Hey, can you just cut the whole tree down?" Because then that's one less they have to mess with every year. Whenever we get storms and stuff coming through.
Oh, I love these glasses. The only problem with them is these are, oh, for those of you who know, there's a story behind these. These are my Wiley X's that I got issued my first tour in Iraq. And they're really cool. I don't know if that you can put arms, they came with arms on them, but you can put the elastic strap, which comes in handy if you're wearing helmets and night vision gear and commo and stuff like that. What's really cool about them, I don't know if y'all see this. That ain't gonna work. They've got these holes around the edge of the foam. They actually seal up to your eye, but they got those holes to allow air to vent through.
Mm-hmm.
So they're really good about not fogging up for ballistic, and they're fairly ballistic. They're polycarb. They're fairly ballistic capable. They'll stop certain crap from hitting you in the eye. The only problem is the shape of them. I don't know if you can see this. They actually poke out just past the frame a little bit. They scratch. You sneeze on them, they'll scratch. That's my only problem with them.
Mm-hmm.
And this is actually a new set of lenses for them. And I wore these like 3 days and they're already scratched. So I would love to get some more lenses for them. They call these the SG1 goggles. I don't know if they actually are anything to do with Stargate SG1, but they gave us a bunch of these goggles to go into Iraq with the wind, sand, and dust on them. But the rest of them are more like fashion sunglasses and they didn't do as good a job as those did.
Yeah.
But I still keep them because they actually do protect your eyes very well. Why not? I've been playing with them all day, trying to see if I can figure out how to get all scratches out of them.
My eyes seem to be getting more sensitive to daylight. It actually, on sunny days, it's actually kind of hard for me to go outside without sunglasses on.
You're looking a lot blurrier to us too.
Yeah. Well, the sunglasses that I have, which they're Foster Grants, they're nice ones. They're not cheap sunglasses, as ZZ Top would sing about, but they're decent.
To wear those.
Right. They're decent sunglasses, but and they do very well for allowing me to walk out my front door to my car without tripping over my own feet, going blind from the sun. But I end up looking like somebody that should be carrying a blind cane. They are so super, super dark.
I bought these. I went to the German Mountain School in Schaffenburg, Germany. It's kind of an elite school, but it was kind of fun. And I got to go up to Garmisch one day, which is just north of where the school is. You catch a train, go up right there. I went into a glasses shop they had there, and they had these nice. Back in the day, we called these glacier glasses because they've got the little leather covers to keep the rocks from getting in behind your glasses. Also helps protect you from sun glare coming in from the side, which is a big problem if you're rock climbing because you can't turn your head away from the sun while you're looking for rocks to climb. So if the sun's hitting you right in the eyes from the side, you're stuck with it. Uh-oh.
Yep. Hey, Stephanie.
Like the shade, John.
You like these? I bought these in Garmisch, Germany, a long time
Cool.
ago. I was just telling the story about I was in German Mountain School and bought these, and it was like late July, early August. So it was, even though you're up in the top of the Alps, it's still hotter than hell, and
Okay.
and plenty of sunshine. You're actually closer to the sunshine. Interesting story. I'd been climbing a mountain all day, and we got up to the top, and we took our lunch break, and we've been climbing all morning. I'm sitting there, and I'm sitting here watching a jet airliner go by, and there was just something wrong with staring at that jet airliner. And I'm sitting here staring at it. I mentioned it. What is wrong with that airplane? Everybody's looking at it. Says, I don't know. What's wrong with that airplane? And it finally, as it flew by and left, it hit me. We were looking down at it.
That would do it. Yes. Yes. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Chris.
It's such a trouble with mountains. You get in the habit of looking down at everything.
You know, I grew up in Chattanooga, and I thought Lookout Mountain, Signal Mountain were big mountains. And then I got to climb the Alps.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a bit like trying to tell people that a traffic jam in Chattanooga is kind of bad, and then you go to Atlanta. That's,
It's kind of how I felt when I went up to the top of Pikes Peak. It's kind of
and you're driving up the mountain. And 3 hours later, you're driving up the mountain, and a couple hours after that, you're driving up the mountain, and it's.
I will admit I was not stupid enough to drive up Pikes because that road is a bugbear, and it's just switchback, and from what I understand, it's also gravel. So yeah, I took the tram, the Cog Railroad. So
Going up wouldn't bother me. Coming down would.
Depends on
Well-
whether or not you're coming down under your own steam, or is gravity having something to do with
Well,
it?
that's just it. Going up the mountain, and you hear your engine working. Yeah, and you see the temperature just slowly going up, and you're like, I don't know if I'm going to make it to the top of this mountain. Then when you finally do get over the top, start going down here, you're like, whew, now I just got to worry about the brakes.
Yeah, been there, done that too.
Yep.
Because I had friends that lived out there in the Front Range, so I would. If you ever read any of my displaced detective books, the places that I talk about in there, it's set in Colorado. Set in Colorado Springs. I have been to those places. So the house is the ranch is based on a real place.
Hmm.
So
Um, our National Guard unit was switching from the old style radios to the new style radios. So they were taking all the vehicles to these radio shops about the state and dropping them off, and they would pull out the old radio gear and put in the new radio gear.
okay.
And I got onto that detail of moving the armored vehicles. So I got with this driver. He'd been in the National Guard for forever, and he taught me how to drive trucks. So I'm driving a 916 Freightliner flatbed trailer. We're loading armored vehicles on. We're taking these shops, and so. But because my National Guard unit mostly is down here in the Chattanooga area, and the shop was up in the Nashville. Actually, the main shop was at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, which is the other side of Nashville. And
I grew up near there.
we had to take all these armored vehicles up there, and depending on the armored vehicle, we could take two at a time or only one at a time, depending on the weight. And the 916 that we were driving is designed. The maximum weight it can carry is basically a Bradley fighting vehicle, 40 tons. And so we went down here to Catoosa Range, picked up this Bradley fighting vehicle, and we're taking it up to Nashville, well, up to Fort Campbell, drop it off there. And we had to go over Monteagle Mountain, as I was speaking earlier.
I was just thinking, you got to go for Monteagle.
Hmm.
And it's like you're going up Monteagle 45 miles, and trucks maxed out 45 miles an hour. Of course, there's a lot of other there are a lot of other trucks with similar loads that are doing that, and it's kind of weird because you get this conflict of all these slower trucks in the far right lane, and whoever's the slowest is blocking all the damn traffic.
Yeah.
And you can't pass them. Because if they're doing 40 and you're doing 41,
It's going to take forever to
slow
get
down
past.
to 40.
Yeah.
And just stand there, man. And it's a pain in the ass. But when you get on the other side, let me tell you, that 916 Freightliner with a 40-ton Bradley fighting vehicle on the back of it. Thank God for Jake brakes. Let me tell you. Because the whole time going down, we went all the way to Murfreesboro, Tennessee, going, wah, just the whole way.
And see, I know these places because I grew up in Tennessee. So, yes, I get this.
Yep.
I don't know who Mr. Jacobs is, but if I ever get to heaven and meet him, I'm shaking his hand right there. It's like St. Peter's, get out of the way. I'm shaking Mr. Jacobs' hand. Okay.
Yes, and they've got a big sign on the way into the county seat that Jake braking is illegal. And I'm going, what did Jake do?
I posted this on Stupid O'Clock.
What did he break?
It showed that tractor trailer rig that had crashed into somebody's house. And I said, yes, Jake brakes make a lot less noise than a tractor trailer rig crashing through the front of your house.
Yeah.
And
what is Jake braking exactly?
A Jacobs brake is a brake that uses the compression from the engine to slow the vehicle down.
Mm-hmm.
So it's part of the diesel engine. And what you're literally doing is, instead of using the power from the engine to power the vehicle, you're using the compression without the expansion part of the engine, using the compression to slow it down.
Yeah.
Oh,
Ask
okay,
a trucker.
Okay. So
Okay.
if you have a switch, and it's controllable, there's a switch in there, you can turn it on, and then they'll have two settings, high and low. And to give you an example, if you've got an 8-cylinder diesel engine, high cuts off half of it. So 4 cylinders are being used as a compression brake. If you put it on low, it's only using 2 cylinders as a compression brake.
Okay.
So when you let off the gas,
Mm-hmm.
if you're not powering the truck to accelerate, you let off the gas, it uses the compression to slow the truck down and maintain a certain speed.
Okay.
And of course, anybody that's ever heard a truck going down a hill hears that. Bah! That's the Jacobs brake using the compression of the engine to brake. And yes, they're loud, but it's a lot better than getting killed in a car accident.
Yeah, they save lives.
Yes, indeed.
It may be the greatest in trucking since I don't know, truck tires. So
Okay. Well, I occasionally see the signs on the side of the road, and I kind of figured it was something like that, but I didn't know the exact details.
And you'll see these communities said no Jake brakes. Because they can't enforce it. I mean, there's no. Hey, it's a safety issue if you don't let me use it. It's like saying I can't use air brakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just hurt my arm doing that.
Well, don't do that.
Really? I'm getting old.
What city have you got in the background tonight?
Chattanooga.
Okay.
That
I
is,
can't. I couldn't see any landmarks because of you and your chair. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Wait a minute. Let me see here. That's the Tennessee Aquarium, and that's the new aquarium.
Okay.
That's the freshwater aquarium. That's the saltwater aquarium.
Okay.
And this is the Market Street Bridge.
Okay.
And that's the Tennessee River that's running right
We've
through my
been on
ears.
before.
Okay. Nice.
Mm-hmm.
And Lookout Mountain will be over there behind Last Man Standing.
Yeah.
It is a very lovely city at night.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
I cannot imagine living in a city that doesn't have a river running through the middle of it. It's just, that's like, who the hell put a city here? What idiot put your city here and don't have a river?
Back in the days, that's how everything got to everybody was by the river.
Huntsville is on the Tennessee River, but the river doesn't run through Huntsville. It runs along the southern boundary.
That's not bad. That means you're going to have a big, huge community south of the river one day.
I used to tease Brian Morris about living on the wrong side of the Wabash River. And basically, the Wabash separates Illinois and Indiana, even though it's a little bit more on the Indiana side by a few miles. But it was a main north-south river, and it was the transportation back in the day for freight getting hauled in off of there. There's a place, if you go through Danville, going east out of Danville toward the Illinois-Indiana state line, that's 136 that you're driving on. And you get down to the junction of 136 and 63, which is just right across the Indiana border. 63 is the main north-south route going from Chicago down south. There's a little jog over that's now referred to as 263, but originally, well, a lot of people call it old 63 before they put the new one in some decades ago. And you would see a lot of these houses and that are still there that were built during the heyday of all the big transportation boom on the Wabash River. There was a little community that basically doesn't exist anymore, with the exception of an Italianate style house, brick house, and a church. And it was called Baltimore, Indiana. And that house has always been referred to as the Baltimore House. And the church is the Baltimore something church. I can't remember if it's Pentecostal or Methodist, whatever it is. Might even be Baptist, I'm not sure. But anyway, those are the only two things left from that. And at one time, Baltimore was a fairly booming community, and then, of course, when they stopped shipping things up and down the river, more so, uh, and started, doing things over land, of course, the community would start to dry up. And, of course, all the businesses and all that would move to where things would be shipped easier, which would naturally be more so near railroads, which Danville is full of. And but it's a really really neat area, but it's very it's hard to imagine the communities that used to be along that river, uh, that were so just prosperous back in the 1800s, maybe
Yeah.
even into early 1900s, that there's next to nothing now. You go by, I mean, you might see some few new houses built here and there are some smaller towns along the way, but nothing to the likes of seeing the old photographs of, oh, here's Baltimore Hill, and here's, Baltimore, that I can't even remember what the population was, but it was several thousand, and for back in the day, but just nothing like it anymore. I mean,
Yeah. It was like that around my both of my grandmother's houses up in East Tennessee. You could tell the towns used to be bigger, and all of a sudden there were a lot of abandoned buildings, whatnot, that hung around for 20 years, 30 years before they started being torn down and new construction put in their places. There were a lot of things. There was one spot near my dad's mother's house, which reminded me a lot of a set from Gunsmoke or some other western like that. It's just these really weathered wooden buildings,
mhm.
and basically it was just storefront with a livery stable in the back, or what used to be, and nothing was there anymore. But the buildings were still standing. There were still signs in the window of one that obviously was a grocery store, which was advertising dozen eggs for 12 cents a piece, a loaf of bread for a nickel. And these are things that had not done business since, uh, well, not before the Great Depression, because that's when they were prosperous, was during the Great Depression, but afterwards, and when industry moved out of the area, they were pretty much closed down, and not even boarded up, just kind of left to decay.
Mm.
It's like a time capsule there. You could walk to church along that particular road on a Sunday morning and get a glimpse through your imagination of what it must have been like 50 years earlier, and when it was actually thriving. And matter of fact, I was the livery stable. I didn't know it was a livery stable until I was told by some of the older folks that were still living in the area. Hey, yeah, that's where the coach stopped, and um, you had uh, storage from the railroad line that came through there, which is now disused. Um, well,
I,
at that time, the train was still going through, but it wasn't dropping off any cargo. And nowadays, the train doesn't even go through there anymore. So things change rapidly. Well, no, not
There,
rapidly, very slowly, but very dramatically. If you have an appreciation of how much uh, the changes have been in that span of time.
you mentioned earlier, Dan, about people building houses or whatever on floodplains. There's a town called Leavenworth, Indiana, that's right on the banks of the Ohio River, and you can see Kentucky on the other side. And in 1938, they had a huge flood that actually forced the community to move Leavenworth, Indiana up on a hill. And the only thing, the last time that I was down there, which was probably almost 20 years ago now, but I'm sure it's still like that, the only buildings that survived the flood that didn't get washed away were the brick buildings that were down there. And you could drive down there to this day and drive around there, and it's kind of eerie looking at like a ghost town, what's left of it. And it was never very large. I think there was, I want to say, like a little bit over 400 people that lived in the town to begin with. So it wasn't like it was a booming community, but it was a community on the Ohio River. And then that year they had a situation that and there were levees and everything down there. You go a little bit further down, you go to Tell City, Indiana, which is the name of the furniture company, Tell City Furniture. And they would actually make it down there, and that you can see the dams and the levees and everything all along there. But yeah, it was really something else. And we went down there. There's I think it's called the Overlook Restaurant that looks out onto the Ohio River, and you can look down over to the right to see that, and then down over to the left and see the remaining brick structures in Old Leavenworth and that down there. But they have I guess a big documentary about it, and I saw it on the History Channel some time ago, whatever. But
sorry about the facial grimaces, folks. My arthritis is killing me tonight. Every once in a while, there is a twinge that I cannot ignore easily.
Mine's in my back.
Mine's in my wrists and my elbows tonight.
Ow.
Usually my elbows do not bother me, but tonight it is. I have had a very physical week at work.
So, really quick, change of subject. Good news and bad news, as they used to say on Hee Haw. I went to Walmart to buy some vitamin water and a few things, and I saw this Hot Wheels Batmobile from the Batman movie.
Oh.
And I picked it up, and I thought, okay, I'm going to get it. I like the packaging. And I go to pay for it, and I know it wasn't a 99-cent Hot Wheels car because of the packaging and stuff was a little bit, I figured a couple bucks. This sucker was almost $6. And I'm like, why? I thought, well, what the hell? I'll get it. I got it home and I looked it up, and rarity, it's an all metal Hot Wheels car, which is next to impossible anymore. But and so now, being that it's all metal, I'm like, oh, now I want to take it out of the package.
It'll just rust.
Pick up this old all metal Batmobile.
I believe the proper term is die cast.
Yeah. Well, you can have plastic die cast, which so many of them went to. But oh, and the bit of good news, though, since that was the bad news, sort of, the bit of the good news is talking with Laura today, and she said, I think I'll be willing to go to the auction with you and Dad tomorrow night, and which has been the first time in over a month.
Really, since the surgery.
She can't drive yet, which she goes to PT every Tuesdays and Thursdays through the first week of June, and then she has her 6-week follow-up appointment in Indy, and then that's when they're going to say, okay, yeah, we think you can drive, or no, let's wait a little longer, or what have you.
Yeah.
But she feels like she'll be able to by then, but just right now. So I'm a little jazzed. I get my auction buddy and my bestie coming with me and her dad, and I enjoyed taking her dad the last few weeks, by ourselves, but it's like something's missing. Oh yeah, Laura. So anyway, and she said she doesn't know how long she's going to be able to stand it and stay there. And she, just depending on the pain level and that, but which I keep telling everybody they did rotator cuff surgery on her, and I have to correct myself. They were going to, but when they tried to put the anchors, they're basically screws, but I believe the actual medical term is anchors, into the bones of her shoulders, the bones were too soft and they could not get the anchors to fasten. And they actually tried 4 different anchors from 2 different kinds to go in there. So the doctor did the tightening of the tendons and everything around her. I forget what muscle that is around your top of your shoulder. It starts with an S, but
oh no,
supra. I'm going to look it up now because I'm going to
really
cause myself grief not to remember it. But
been 60 years since my last biology class. Well, no, the
supraspinatus muscle, the tendon.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yes, everybody, here's your biology lesson for the day. But anyway, so they tightened all the tendons and that up, but probably in a year she's going to have the total shoulder replacement surgery. So, but anyway, I'm hoping that it'll be painless tomorrow night for her, and I'll actually get to take her Donald Duck cap to her tomorrow. That she had me buy for her last week. It's going to be something that she's going to sell on eBay, but
well, I'm glad she's doing better.
Definitely.
Yeah, she, PT wears her out.
Oh yeah.
And she a lot of times has to take a nap or, just kind of rest a little bit in the afternoon, but it makes her sore, but it's a good kind of sore.
Mm-hmm.
As far as a progressive,
she knows she's
possible.
worked. She knows she's worked the joint and muscles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, when the doctor got in there, and he just said, yeah, her shoulder was a hot mess, and she had been dislocating that shoulder off and on since she was a teenager. She's dislocated that shoulder over 100 times. She usually was able to roll it back in by herself, but with the exception of one time that she couldn't do it. And then this time when we were coming back from Chicago and it went out on her that time, it took an awful long time for her to put it back in. And but it's been a consistent problem with her long enough that I'm actually happy to hear that she needs a shoulder replacement surgery, because that'll take care of it all. Him tightening up the tendons will actually make it so where she'll never dislocate her shoulder again the rest of her life. But the replacement is because she can't lift her arms above her head right now because of that.
That kind of if you see me cringe, it's because I'm hurting for her.
Well, I had the knee surgery in '79 when I was a sophomore in high school, or no, junior in high school. I had to think there for a minute, and I went through hell for my PT. I would lay on my stomach, and the nurse would have me bend my leg up and want to push it all the way back to where my heel's coming down on my butt, and it hurt. Felt like three kinds of hell.
Mm-hmm.
And I let her know that there's permanently there's like an eighth of an inch that I'm unable to bend it any longer. And that's just from the surgery. But of course they did surgery so differently than what they do now. If I had it happen now instead of then and have the arthroscopic surgery or something, it would have been probably a lot less painless, and I wouldn't have baseball stitching across my kneecap and all that wonderful stuff.
Oh, well, I've got a nice little weather station installed in my left knee, otherwise known as two titanium Phillips head screws. When a drunk driver ran a red light in front of my motorcycle, and I learned that it is entirely possible to fly for short distances.
Yeah.
With an appreciable impact upon said phenomenon ceasing to function. But from that time till now, I get a three-day warning of any severe thunderstorm because the screws are still in my knee, and they will be for the rest of my life, even though the bones have grown back together. But it does have a way of swelling up and throbbing. You can actually, normally you cannot tell where the screws went in except if you look at the skin and see where the scar tissue is. But just before a rainstorm, it pops up like my knee has a bad case of the mumps.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So and the pain itself is not trivial, but I can still function if I'm careful to not try and do ballroom dancing or gymnastics or something like that.
Isn't it funny how you can learn to live with pain? And you just think it's normal.
Well, no, you never think it's normal. You just go, yeah, okay, yeah, I remember when I broke that. Yeah, I remember when I broke that too. And it's one of those things where at a certain point, the I don't want to call it chronic pain because that seems to trivialize people that really do suffer from that. But it's minor aches and pains that never ever go away. They're not they're not huge. They're not insurmountable. They're not anything that you would normally need any kind of physical therapy or medication to deal with. It's just an aspect of your everyday life where um, there is not a moment when you are awake that the the pain is not palpable. And I've had a very active life, and I've had several minor and a couple of major injuries that have been repaired, and the uh, the patchwork is still holding, but occasionally it seems like there's a little bit of rust in the artificial parts. So yeah, kind of grates a little bit every now and then. And then you've got the arthritis, and
And
that's
you
a
know,
whole new world right there.
oh boy. And the notion that it's all for old people is a bunch of bunkum,
Oh no,
because I was hospitalized when I was in the third grade with every joint in my body from the waist down locked up in a contracted position. I could not even bear the weight of my own legs on those joints. Just to be carried around, the weight of my joints the weight of my legs hanging on those joints made me cry. It hurt so bad.
and
And I've been really good at predicting pain, predicting weather my whole life because of the pain.
exactly, it's
So
like your own little weather alert radio without ever needing batteries.
Yeah. Barometer.
Hey, honker like this, I can smell rain coming. That's guys, it's been fun, but I've got to bow out for the rest of the night. Now have a good one.
Um,
Nice talking to y'all. Nice seeing you again, Stephanie, the lovely Bill Sartain, and the ever popular Dan Hollifield. And Stephanie, tell your cats I love them. So
will do. Will do.
sure
You saw him come through
I'm-
earlier, right?
mhm. He made
Not
a
everybody.
streaking appearance.
Mhm. Have a good night, John.
Good night, John Boy.
Yeah, when I had my surgery in
I do
79
remember.
on my knee, I had the doctor tell me, he says, "Yeah, you're gonna get some arthritic pains here and that, and you probably be able to predict the weather and all this." Ha ha ha. Oh, really? Oh,
Ain't nothing
when?
funny
When I'm
about it.
50 years old or something? He said, "No." He said, "Probably about 5 or 6 years from now." And you would know that. Let's see, I had my surgery in May of 79. In July, 5 years later to the date, uh, uh, yeah, July, 5 years later, I started having arthritic pains. Now, mind you, they were very, very light at the time. And over time, of course, they would build and build. And because my bad knee was my left knee, and I had that big honking plaster cast on my upper thigh down to my ankle all one summer, I would start favoring my right knee. And eventually that's how I, years later got to be bone on both knees from us. So now they're, you know, and most often or not, like this morning, they were fairly bad because the dew points are up and it's supposed to rain tomorrow. And so I was really kind of feeling it. got in the hot shower, and when I got out, I put the CBD balm on both of my knees, and I was fine after that. And then uh, tonight before I go to bed, I'll probably do the same thing because I'm kind of feeling it a little more
Hmm.
and that, but uh, nothing the way some people do. And I mean, mine, I got this little twinge in my back the last 3 or 4 days. It's kind of bugging me a little bit, but um, once again, it's well, where it is on my back, I can't put CBD balm on there, but I do have the pills that Laura bought me, and I'll use those or uh, Tylenol or something like that, and it usually helps out. Or even laying out on my bed flat kind of helps my back some too. So but it, there are people that got so much going with them,
Yeah,
and
yeah. And I don't want to belittle anybody's pain and suffering just because what little bit I've got is very obvious to me, and it's just one of those things. I feel it, so but I am well aware that I am very fortunate in that it is as bearable as it is when there are a lot of people out there where it's much worse for them.
mhm.
Now, I had been, I think I went through maybe 3 bottles of CBD oil before uh, the news came out that in Georgia, even if it was THC free, which is what I'd been getting, and no 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 buzz whatsoever. If you were to drink a whole bottle, you wouldn't get a buzz off of it. You just have severe indigestion. But this stuff, uh, an eyedropper full on your tongue twice a day, and the pain would be pretty much, um, if not invisible, then very tolerable. But Georgia has decided, in its state government's infinite wisdom, that even THC free CBD oil is still a illegal drug.
Oh, for crying out loud.
Yes, so I quit ordering the stuff. I mean, I'm not taking any chances. At my age, being arrested is not one of those things that would be fashionable or exciting.
Well,
Or,
once again, I don't think it's something that's enforceable, even
uh,
as illegal as it is. I mean, if it's not going to uh,
you're talking about
impair your driving or anything, you have
well,
to have the reason to have
there's
them pull you over.
there's no impairment involved, but still,
Mhm.
um, I don't see any reason to lose a $50,000 a year job for getting arrested because I mail ordered a pain reliever
Mhm.
that is legal elsewhere but not here, even if there are no um actual drugs in the illegal sense involved in it whatsoever. So I fell back on. I'm going through about a bottle of Aleve every month,
Yeah.
and and those things are not good for your kidneys. So let me tell you. Uh,
No, and being on blood thinners, I can't take a leave um, or ibuprofen in general because it can cause me to bleed out.
yep. Um, but
Well, I
I'm
can't take it because it sets off my IBS.
Hmm.
I'm limited to aspirin and Tylenol.
hmm So
And
I'm
the
very
one time I
thankful for
tried,
the Aleve because that does uh, put a dent in the pain, although it doesn't
Mm.
totally stop it unless I take far too much.
Well, that's what Laura was taking for a while because of she had the thumb surgery last year. You talk about the screws, and she had the plate in the screws where they carved out all the arthritis out of her bone in her thumb, which of course made it shorter. She's got her thumb attached with the plate and four screws. But anyway, she got to the point where she was becoming more worried about her kidneys and stuff. And then, of course, it not working as well anymore. And that's when she got a medical card to get the CBD cream and balm and pills and that. And yeah, it's the balm I use is a 1-to-1 ratio on CBD and THC. The pills I use are either a 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 ratio, which would be three three parts CBD to 1 part THC, I believe.
Mm. Well,
I'd have to look at. I got the bottle in the other room, so I can't remember.
unfortunately, for here, even totally THC free
Mm.
is considered the same as marijuana. So, I mean, I'm hoping that eventually there will be some sanity in the state government. But
Gonna have to get you a new governor.
been trying.
oh, Chris has got a point here.
Well, yeah, no, they figured out how to tax it. It's the same thing that has been keeping people from buying beer on Sunday. It's all the blue-haired old ladies that are voting
Mm.
what their church preachers tell them is God's will instead of going, hey, uh, this helps people and it's harmless and there are no actual drugs involved.
Well,
Uh,
what Chris is saying is probably very close to the actual reason because so much of it does have to do with money. And if the state of Georgia can make money off it, they'll legalize it. And
eventually, yeah,
they'll, they'll
there's going
see
to
the
have to
way it
be,
does. I mean, it took Illinois a while,
well,
and
yeah,
now people look at Illinois like it was California or something, and even the recreational ones. But and then of course with the gambling casinos and everything else, you can buy liquor here on a Sundays, but it just
yeah,
um,
yeah.
it's just
It's,
follow the money, and that's where it's going to be.
I'm
That's
hoping
all there
to out,
is.
I'm hoping to outlive them, and some common sense will prevail. But they are indoctrinating their descendants to believe the same nonsense they believe.
But the point is, though, what you do on your own time, Dan, is your business and not your work's business or anybody else's. If you do it at your home, fine.
Un- Unfortunately, my work does not agree, and my state does not agree. Uh,
Well,
what
and
is
they
my
can,
business is make money, pay taxes,
yeah.
and keep your mouth shut. Uh,
And what they don't know won't hurt them. They can't talk
yeah.
about it unless you give them a reason to talk about it.
Well, still, what I'm saying is they have this ability to uh, compromise my quality of life for what they see as a uh, universal morality when there is no such thing as a universal morality, but there's only the situational, the civilizational, the cultural, that's the word, cultural morality that happens to hold sway. And yeah, back when I was much younger, I didn't care about that, but now I've got too much to lose. So
Now you just put me into mind of that song "Back When My Hair Was Short" by Gun Hill Road.
back when my hair actually had a color is more like it. Uh, yep, Chris. Employers can do random drug tests, and some of them do not even have to have probable cause. It's just, oh, well, we can thin the herd and save money and hire younger people for less money to do the same job if we just manage to get rid of all these old folks that are needing some of the uh, reliable pain relievers that they could get if people would just demonstrate some sanity and common sense. But, you know, uh, I've got 2 more years to worry about that. And then only thing I'd have to worry about would be uh, random traffic stops, basically. And nobody's going to have a blood testing kit or for any uh, herbal remedies that don't involve THC.
Up here, they used to do random traffic stops on not the highways, but on some of the
back roads.
busier roads
Oh, really?
around town, and you would be lined up, and it wasn't to see so much if you were high or drunk, but if you had a valid driver's license and registration and current insurance, they can pull you over for that. And then whatever else they happen to get you on after that point, then that's just the extra bonus. And but they used to do that a lot when I was a teenager. And of course, everybody get on the CB radio. Hey, avoid Georgetown Road. They got traffic stops up there. Cops got
It's a wonder
blockade set up.
It's a wonder they didn't make CB radios illegal as well as CBD and anything that it came from.
Well, the cops could listen on the CBs as well. A lot of them had them in their vehicles, or they had the crystals in their radios.
Yep. Time to move the roadblock. They caught on to us.
Well, what we did was there was a few guys around town that sold CB mobiles and base stations and antennas and beams, things like that. Made the illegal amplifiers that you can attach to your base station to pump out that wattage a little bit more, and little two tubers. But I had a Robin 520D base station, and then I had a Sears Road Talker 40 channel mobile that I had one of our local CB wizards put in upper and lower sidebands in these. And so we'd have all the extra channels. And you just say, go to channel lower 21 or upper 21 or whatever, And you get up there, and of course, by the time the person that you didn't want them to hear you get it, you can have already moved to the other one.
Mhm.
Or we would say one channel, but actually mean 3 channels up or 3 channels down from that,
Yeah.
which was kind of an old Burt Reynolds sketch that he did, I think, in one of the Smokey and the Bandits movie between him and Jerry Reed. When I tell you to go to channel 19, that means to go to channel 21. And if I tell you to go to channel 21, that means go to channel 25. And
Yeah. And that's even older than that. But
yeah,
there are ways to get around anything.
The pellet with the poisons, the vessel with a pestle.
but
Dan got it.
But the chalice from the palace.
Has the brew that is true.
Yes. No, you can keep reading. I'm not getting excited. Oh, here we go. It's this is about if this was the monthly Lyra Niven chat on the chat room, the IRC chat. This is about the time that you would be diving into Monty Python references and whatnot, and people will go, "Oh, it's never too early for a Monty Python reference."
And I posted in the Stupid O'Clock group this evening a really nice John Cleese video. They actually did it for Mother's Day, or they had posted the video for Mother's Day, but it's John Cleese playing an adult child going back to his parents' house to visit on holidays, and how he's bickering back and forth with his mother. Some of those I have just seen for the very first time. I mean, any Monty Python I've seen a dozen times over or more. But some of these other things that John Cleese did before or even during that you might see Graham Chapman or Eric Idle or somebody in, another Python member, but it was a different show altogether.
Yeah, there were. Well, I mean, you had that many talents together in. Let's face it. In England, there were a limited number of outlets for a large number of artists to make their name and get their material out there and get known. And a lot of them, while they may have had one specific group of folks that they worked with, nobody was adverse to branching out and working with an entirely different crowd of folks, or solo, or duo, or whatever.
That's kind of what happened with Saturday Night Live, and now I just lost it. The show that John Candy and Joe Flaherty and all them were in.
Second City or Fridays, or both.
Not Fridays.
Second City was where a lot of Canadian comedians found their
SCTV. Yeah, that's right.
I don't want to say their first audiences, but got widely recognized. Yeah, SCTV.
A good majority of that came out of Chicago. Matter of fact, you think, well, Saturday Night Live, you think of New York and that, but the majority of those people were in Chicago, doing all the skits, the same things that you would see them do in the first few seasons of Saturday Night Live. They were, doing them live on stage in Chicago in the early 70s. And
Bill, have you ever heard of the Lemmings?
yeah,
Okay. Okay. For those in the audience that might not know, there was something loosely allied with National Lampoon.
mhm,
And it was I experienced it first as a vinyl LP of a recording of a comedy concert, basically. But it was basically a parody of Woodstock. And the major conceit was that here you got all these young people. Let's just treat them like lemmings and get them to jump over a cliff rather than listen to several days worth of music in an unsanitary environment and go home and brag about how they got to see some of the greatest bands in the universe. But there were a lot of not only Saturday Night Live future alumni there, but there were a lot of Second City people there, and there were a lot of other uh, comedy troops. I don't know exactly what they were calling themselves at the time, but they were prevalent all over the place. I mean, you had Christopher Guest was one of the folks in there, and he's been in tons and tons of things. Uh, Although not widely known for doing like Saturday Night Live or Second City himself, but he was more of a writer. Uh, and
him and
he's
his brother Nicholas were uh, one of the cast of the brothers that were cast in the Long Riders Western movie, along with the Keaches and the Carradines and the Quades.
mm,
I'm trying to think uh, which characters Christopher and Nicholas played. I'm wanting to say it was Bob Ford and his brother,
it's
but I'm
been
not. I'm
it's
not
been so
certain.
long, I can't remember. I really can't. It wouldn't make that much difference because so much water has flown flowed under the bridge that I've lost track. I really have. I should be able to remember more about the lemmings, but um, I do remember that uh, a year or two after I had discovered the comedy album and had learned it front to back just from replaying the record over and over again. I was sitting in one of the uh, places there at University of Georgia where you get a quick lunch in between classes, and they had at least one television on every wall playing videotapes and whatnot. They played the entire live Lemmings. Uh, well, I don't want to call it a show, but it was a recording, and got to see uh, Belushi and um, oh crap now Aphasia. Now I can't remember his name. Chevy Chase. Thank you.
Oh,
Doing a comedy routine I'd never even heard of before that wasn't on the record, and then you got to see lots and lots of other things. You got to actually see the stuff, and this was the same place. Actually, I went in there for lunch one day, and they were playing um, the Beatles' Magical Mystery Tour movie. And you go in there, and it would be right there for free on the screen. All you had to do is get your lunch, sit down, and hopefully not have to skip class so that you could see the entire thing. but it'd be playing on a continuous loop all day. So you could go to class and come back and hopefully catch it about the same point that where you live. Um,
Kind of
Memorial,
like going to movies when you were a kid. Okay, this is where I came in, so time to go.
yeah. The building was Memorial Hall, and it was one of the eating halls in there where they also had meeting rooms and other stuff that going on. The UGA Sci-Fi Club, which had as their uh, quarterly newsletter a little amateur sci-fi zine that they put out called Aphelion, which is where I got the name when I started my own e-zine. I actually got in touch with the folks that I used to hang out with and said, "Do you mind if I use the name?" And they said, "Go for it." So I did. Um, used to meet there for the Sci-Fi Club every Wednesday night about 7 p.m. or thereabouts. By 9 p.m., we'd be heading out of the building and going to one of the local pizza places where we consume mass quantities and have a couple of drinks. And if it was one of the places that had video games down in the basement, we'd go play video games. Um, One of my friends was very, very good at samurai air hockey, which was slightly dangerous the way we played it. I mean, those little plastic pucks went everywhere at lethal velocity, and there was a lot of shouting and whatnot going on. A lot of good times were had there, and a lot of brain cells were turned to mush in those days. Uh, no wonder I remember it so fondly. The 70s were an awesome time to be a college kid, let me tell you.
Well, you talk about Monty Python stuff and that, you can't forget the Policeman's Secret Ball from 1979. That
Yeah,
had
that
wonderful music and comedy both.
that the Secret Policeman's Ball and the Secret Policeman's Other Ball were both videos being played in Memorial Hall during during my college years. There were a lot of things. If Spinal Tap had been created back in the 70s rather than later on, it would have been playing. Um,
Well, I think the other ball came out in 82, wasn't it? Which
um,
that would have been the second one.
that would have been the second one. I don't remember what year it was. My college years ended in 70. Let's see, spring of 78, and by fall of 78,
Yeah, I'm
a job at a
looking
factory.
it up.
But I did know about the second one. But
Yeah, the first one was 79, and the second one, the Secret Policeman's Other Ball, was 82. Get a
okay,
load of the cast on some of this. Russell Brand, Rowan Atkinson, Phil Collins, Liam Neeson, Billy Connolly, Ben Stiller, Paul Rudd, Pete Townsend, Sting, Eric Clapton, Jason Sudeikis, Kristen Wiig, Bill Hader, Sarah Silverman, Seth Meyers, Eddie Izzard. Oh my God! Jeff Beck, Jon Stewart, John Cleese.
well,
Um,
given the time the first one came out, then I was already out of college and working at the factory when
yep.
that happened. So I would not have seen that in Memorial Hall. But it is exactly the kind of thing that they would have been playing there.
Oh yeah. And Terry Jones and Graham Chapman from Monty Python was in the second one too. But now I had the first one, the one from 79. I actually had I guess you would say the soundtrack album to it, but it did have both the music and the comedic sketches all on that album. It was a double album. And yeah, it was just great stuff.
Yeah. Sometimes you want to say that comedy like that won't ever come around again, but yes, it has.
Mhm.
There's a lot of things that will pretty much fit the definition of everything old is new again. And new folks have rediscovered some of the not only the old routines, but come up with their own brand new ones. And then uh, get out there and put themselves out in front of the public and gotten wide recognition or even narrow recognition, as the case may be, and gone on and built on that bit of success there into something either much wider or much more narrowly focused sort of niche audiences. Um, at the same time, I mean, it could have been widespread, could have been a very tiny sort of window of opportunity.
Mhm.
Uh,
Well, they had so much that would go on back in the day, and all these benefit concerts and everything else. You don't really hear anybody doing anything like that anymore. About a month ago or so, I posted on, I think, my artwork page the video for the Boomtown Rats "I Don't Like Mondays" song.
Yep.
And
that was
got
strange. That was strange.
I got a comment saying, never heard of that group before. Oh, okay. Well, let's see.
Did you ever hear the inspiration for that particular song before? That's that was what I was thinking of, because it was
in a way, it's a hilarious song until you do hear the story.
well, I wouldn't have even called it hilarious, but it was a very well done song, very artfully done, very poetic. But once you find out the backstory behind the composition of it, it becomes a very tragic composition. But it would be, in my estimation, a very necessary one to bring that to a greater, the awareness of a greater audience.
Mm-hmm.
And
if you people out there think that we're going to tell you what it is, nope, you got to Google it.
I was actually going to tell folks what it was.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, sure.
Had you heard of that one, Stephanie?
No, I've just been sitting here listening to you guys, and half of the stuff I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, it was a really neat song, and then it turns out that a few years before, was it Bob Geldorf?
Mm-hmm.
With Boomtown Rats? Before the song was composed, there was a school shooting in England, I do believe. And it was a little girl that grabbed a hunting rifle and started picking off people in a schoolyard. And when the police got there and stopped her without killing her, they asked her the reason, and her only reply was, "I don't like Mondays." Apparently, she did get a lot of therapy, and the mental health counseling that she needed, and I do not know what happened to her after that, but it was one of those things where the tragedy gave birth to art, which is not always a bad thing, and it keeps similar things in the public eye so that folks can learn these things do happen and they are not necessarily going to be nice or pleasant, but they're going to be real, and they are not always going to be so.
Yeah, the actual shooting took place on January 29th, 1979. The song was released on July 13th of the very same year.
Mm,
Oddly enough, I thought the actual shooting took place a couple of years prior to that, but apparently not.
well, when you get somebody that sensitive to current events, because as Chris said, he's a guy behind Live Aid and several other
Mm.
big events. When something hits that hard, and you've got no other way to deal with it than a musical composition or a piece of artwork or a story, then the artistic temperament takes over and you wind up finding a way to deal, basically.
Mhm. And apparently that shooting did not happen in England.
Oh,
I'm reading here, it said the morning Brenda Spencer, a 16-year-old with a history of petty theft and violent thoughts, opened fired from inside her house at students outside of San Diego's Grover Cleveland Elementary School across the street. In a 15-minute spell, she fired 30 rounds of ammunition from a semi-automatic 22 caliber rifle her father gave her for Christmas. Principal Ragg and custodian Mike Scar were killed in the attack. 8 children and a policeman were wounded. Spencer told the classmates a week before that she wanted to do something big to get on TV, then locked herself in her house as the SWAT team descended. The standoff lasted nearly 7 hours before Spencer finally surrendered. During that time, a reporter from the San Diego Tribune spoke to her on the telephone, and she explained her actions by saying, "I just did it for the fun of it. I don't like Mondays. This livens up the day. I have to go now. I shot a pig, I think, and I want to shoot more. I'm having too much fun."
Lord mercy.
I must
Yeah.
have thought, I must have thought it was in England because Gildorf being
Yeah, well, and I'll tell you, I now don't want to get too depressing with that story, but another song that I knew forever, but never really got into the aspect of kind of dissecting the lyrics and figuring out what the song was about. And I'm about to get all tangled up in the chords here. The Christopher Cross song, Think of Laura, which is a beautiful, beautiful song. And I heard that one day, and then on one of our local radio stations. And the guy the on-air personality I'm friends with, I know he's local in Danville. I've known him for ever, and he's always really good about getting out little tidbits of information about this and that, or a backstory about the song or about the artist or what have you. Think of Laura is actually a song that Christopher Cross wrote about his wife's best friend dying and the grief that his wife was going through because of that. And he kept saying, think of Laura, kind of what would Laura do or what would she say and all that, And I thought, whoa. So I Googled the lyrics, naturally after this, because the song was already over with when he was making the little backstory comments about it. And I started going, reading the lyrics, and sure enough, yeah, makes sense now. And there's, you think about how many songs you hear over the years, and they don't always have to be something that is depressing or, pessimistic overtones or what have you, but, it could be something actually really nice or whatever. And there's plenty of those to be talked about as well. But some of those you never know until somebody says something, I guess. Some songs like Ohio by Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, we all know what that was about, and the shooting and everything.
I mean, that was pretty
yeah.
plain.
Yep. They that's an easy one, but there are others that aren't so much. And
I used to think Procol Harum's Whiter Shade of Pale was it contained a lot of references to Canterbury Tales. Unfortunately, I may have been reading more into that than was intended. So I don't know exactly if what I was thinking was obvious to me as a person of the literary persuasion was actually what the band intended. So who knows? I've never actually heard an explanation. There might be one out there that I could find on YouTube or Google or whatever, but it's never been disseminated in any of the places where you don't have to search for it.
Well, the Beatles' Helter Skelter is actually about a roller coaster ride. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds was not, in fact, about LSD, but about a drawing that John's son Julian brought home one day about a woman that he, for whatever reason, he called her Lucy. He said her name is Lucy. And I actually seen the actual drawing before on one of the websites.
And Hey Jude was actually about Julian.
Yeah. It was originally going to say Jules because they always called him Jules over the nickname of Julian.
The family Jules, yes.
Yeah. So, well, Jules. And yeah.
But that was the way that his dad referred to him, basically, as a joke. Yeah.
But of course, Paul said that Hey Jules just didn't sound right.
It didn't scan as well. Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Sometimes you have to bow to lyrical necessity. Just like in any other form of composition, if the words don't sound right, you got to tweak them a little bit.
And Paul said that the one part of Hey Jude, I know I'm going to get this wrong or recite it wrong. The movement you need is on your shoulder. And Paul wrote it, but he didn't think it was right. He was going to get ready to kind of cross it out, but he was having problems what to put in there. So he asked John about it, and John looked at it and he says, "Oh no, that's perfect. Leave that in." He says it makes total sense. So they left it in. Paul would have took it out of the song, but
Two
anyway.
edits are better than one sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
I think maybe I might have mentioned this. I'm not sure though, but I'll just mention it one more time. Saturday, I will not be able to be here for either show. I'm going to take Laura's dad up to Chicago for an impromptu trip. No doctor's appointments on this one, especially being on a Sunday, but we have to mow up there. Yeah. And I have to haul a mower up in my car, which the trunk in my little yellow Pontiac is so small, or at least very much the opening is so small. I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to get it fit in the trunk of my car. To which Laura said, "Well, what are you going to do? Put it in your back seat?" And I said, "Hey, good idea." So one way or the other, it's getting up there. And of course, I'll leave it up there. Yeah. For the whole season, because we do have another mower at home. It's just the one that we took up there last month, which was a brand new mower, ended up having problems that we had to take to get repaired. Not at our cost, of course, but so we had to bring it back and take it back up.
In the same vein, Saturday night the 14th, Stupid Clock, Last Man Standing as normal for a given value of normal, but Saturday night the 21st,
okay,
there will be no Last Man Standing.
Okay.
I will be here for Stupid O'Clock, but I may have to leave early. Lindsay will be coming back from New Mexico that night, and her shuttle bus from the Atlanta airport will get back into Athens about 1 a.m., which is the same time that Last Man Standing would normally start on a Saturday night. I am not going to be able to broadcast from the car, so...
Oh, totally understandable.
So there just is not going to be a Last Man Standing on the 21st or Sunday morning, 22nd.
And Chris, to answer your question, the handles do fold down forward. That's how we get them in the trunk of Laura's car, but she has a much larger car than I do. So her trunk's a lot bigger. And so if you put the wheels all the way on the lowest position on both the front and the back wheels, and you fold the handles forward, or actually even take the top part of the handles off and place them in separate, it will fit in her trunk perfect, where she can close the lid. Mine, I think it's going to be the problem of how many inches from the deck to the top of the engine of the lawnmower that might be too tall to go fit through the opening of the trunk of my car. I'm going to measure it. I'm going to try it if I can, but as it's looking right now, just thinking about it and knowing what I've been able to get in and out of my trunk and what I haven't in the past, I'm thinking I'm going to have to spread out some blankets or towels or something in the back seat, and then still fold the handles down, but put it back, in the back seat to travel back there, since it'll just be me and Laura's dad going up on this trip. and that, but it's just one of those things. But we have not mowed it yet this year. And where his yard is heavily shaded, and they've had cooler weather, but they've had some wetter weather up there too than what we've had. So I don't know, but anyway, that's going to be my Sunday, and I'll probably not be back till late as well. But it's basically, Stephanie, 4 hours up and 4 hours back, because it's actually northwest of Chicago, northwest suburbs.
Okay.
Close enough to O'Hare that when the planes go off and I can look up overhead from his yard, I can read the writing on the side of the planes.
Oh my.
Excuse me.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, unless you live up there, it's something that you don't get used to very much. Driving on Interstate 83 coming into Elk Grove Village, or going through Orland Park or wherever, and you see the planes taking off and landing, or even just in a holding position. They just look so super huge.
Well, if you were a practical joker, you could always climb up on the roof and paint "Welcome to Cleveland" on the roof of the house.
Yeah. Well, they are really something. Her dad used to work for 2 different airports,
Mhm.
and he was a mechanic, one of them. So he was used to it. He still, to this day, he can take any flight that he wants to go to within the continental U.S. for free. And his daughters, Laura and Jenny, can go for free as well. And that, which I guess back in the day, they used to do that quite a bit. And that's how they used to go when their mom was still living, and that's their preference to going on vacation anywhere, going to Hawaii at the drop of a hat or something like that. They were taking the plane. They'd, drive over to O'Hare and take the plane to wherever. And I guess one time, Laura's sister Jenny, when she was 7 or 8 years old, took a plane to go across to California, I believe, to a relative's house, all by herself. They put her on the plane. The stewardesses knew that this little girl was by herself, so they kind of tended to her, I guess, in their form of babysitting, and while she was on the plane. And then when she got off, the family was waiting for her right there. And talk about something that's unheard of by today's standards.
Well, I just discovered that I have an apology to make to Joe Bachman. I just looked down at the lower part of the screen and saw there was something on Messenger, and it was Joe asking for a link to come in the show and join us. But it was like 11 o'clock.
Oh.
So I didn't see it until just now. And
Joe doesn't have our
the end credits. No, we're going to have to add him to the
add him to the,
and that should be fairly easy to do.
Well, I apologize too, because I did not see that. Otherwise, I would have sent it to him. I'm friends with Joe on there, but
I'm very sorry, Joe. I did not see that until just now, and otherwise it would have been automatic. Yeah. There's a list of folks that if they want to come on the show, I will send them a link. if I'm aware that they time. But this time, I was not paying sufficient attention to reality. I was busy uh, talking my head off and listening to Bill and talking
weren't we all?
to me. You know, it's my fault. I did not pay enough attention. I am the showrunner. It's always my fault. Uh, these things they do happen, and I'm very sorry, Joe. I'm very sorry. We will try and do better in the future.
Speaking of paying attention to the time,
It is. I don't have. It's almost the end of the show here in my little things to play, but. Yep, about to hit the outro here and tell the bedtime story and close everything off.
I may be into the green room tomorrow night, depending on how early I get back or not. And other than that, I will see all of you next Thursday if I don't see you tomorrow night.
Guys,
And
even if I'm not saying much, I'm enjoying it. I like listening to all the stuff, and it makes sitting here in the house by myself not feel by myself.
because you're not.
Yeah, yeah. I just wanted y'all to know.
We're with you always.
Yes.
Except in that one nightmare about the sausage grinder. Now I'm never showing up in that one.
I won't even ask what that's about because I don't want to know. It's too close to bedtime.
It's about me being able to improv and make Stephanie laugh, which is
Yep.
always something I love to do. All right, folks. It's time.
Thanks, Chris.
Oh yeah, thank you, Chris. I'm sorry. I'm ready to play the end credits, so I did not see Chris's comment. But thank you very much for being here, and thank everybody who has watched and everybody who will be watching on the reruns. I'm looking at you, Carl. We'll do this again, anon, or as heavily disguised as we can get, so we can remain anon. And good night, everybody.
Good night. Bye, Candias.
Transmission overload. System will shut down. System will shut down. System will shut down. System will shut down.